Thanks, Greg. Yes. When the time is right. Right now.
So for the record, Greg Berger and Trails Coordinator, and I just wanted to also recognize Muscle Powered for all that they do for this community and how much that they've supported me and been such a treasure for this community. And I have heard mayors and supervisors from this community ask for Muscle Powered's opinion on things. So you talk about an organization that has an impact on the community and is respected within the community. Muscle Powered is it. And also a shout out to Chelsea for fulfilling 2 or 3 terms as president. And because you can't keep an organization like this moving forward and keep it viable and keep it active and keep it going if you don't have good leadership. And Chelsea provides that leadership. So thank you very much for what you do.
I'd like to add something too. When I first moved to Carson City in 2006, October 13th, 2006, the plan was I was going to live here for 1 year, and if after 1 year I couldn't say I was home, I was going to move to the next town on my list. Within a few months, I found myself on the board of Muscle Powered, and I never got past Carson City. It made such a difference to me. I could say I was home right away, and I could see what Muscle Powered was doing in this community, and of course Bob Crowell had a lot to do with that too. And I can remember when I was president of Muscle Powered, and I came before the Board of Supervisors to get this MOU signed for the Ashta Kings Trail. And it was just for the Ashta Kings Trail. And Bob looked at it and he says, I have a problem with this, Donna. And he says, I think we need to expand this for the whole valley. And I took it back to the Board of Muscle Power and I says, are we ready for this? And we still have that same MOU on the books today with the city. So Juan and I signed that back in, 2015.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Muscle Powered has really done a lot working with the community to make a difference here. So, yes.
Well, that was one of the things they did was they were some of the ground force that helped get the question which number it is, I don't remember.
1.
Question 1, to get the monies for these programs that we have in this city. So they were, and then I worked a bunch with them on the bicycle component, the RTC side of them. So you guys do both. You got the dirt trails and the paved trails. That's great. So, did you guys get a picture? One of you with a camera? Here, hang on to that a little bit.
We could get all the OSAC members in there too.
Well, I was wondering if you want to do that or not.
I'll take another one. Smile. Gotcha. And if you want to get OSAC in there,
That would be nice.
squish in behind them.
Second story.
We appear taller.
Yeah,
You
you gotta
get it?
stand on your tippy toes, everybody, and I'll try to do the same. Okay, and smile.
Wow.
Gotcha. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you guys.
All right, thank you, Mike.
Okay, the next person was nominated by Mary. And so I'll let her have a chance to say things. She will smile on everything. Lynn Zong. I love Lynn Zong. Come up here, Lynn. You're one of my favorite people, lady. I got very nice. Lynn has been a part of Carson City for many, many, many years. And if you use the word Carson River, Lynn Zong is part of that. They're inseparable of all the work that she's done on the river. And personally, she worked with me on the trail plan and was the editor to change all my gobbledygook writing to something that actually won a state award for planning. So we thanks to Lynn for that. And all the different.
It was a team effort.
Yes, it
It was
was.
a team
There were a lot of people
effort. A lot
involved.
of people worked on that.
That's right. But you were the editor that helped me move that along. So there's just hundreds of hours you give, and it's so greatly appreciated all the time and energy, and that you still keep coming.
Ah,
You came to our river meeting. We were all
of
excited to see you
course.
there. And she's a rafter, and she's the one that's been taking people out for years in the river. She did the trail, the aquatic trail that Carson City has, and Carson River.
But it was this group, when I came and I gave a 3-minute presentation at the beginning, it was this group that said, yeah, let's go. It was this group that buoyed that up. It was this group that made it happen. This group that's done all the river access areas. It's this group that's done the maps. It's this group that's done the planning. This group is the one that's really, listen, muscle power. I mean, between open space and muscle power, oh my gosh.
Well, you're part
That's
of
why we
that.
live here.
You're
That's why we
part of
live here.
that.
I did a little tiny part.
No, well, every tiny part counts a
Little
lot
tiny.
for us. So, yeah.
But if anybody wants to go on a river trip, let's just start planning
Yeah, see where she
now.
goes.
May, I think it's going to be a drought year, but
Well, Nino, whatever it is.
it's just been good in the past 2 years. So anyway.
Mary, did you want to say a few things?
I just wanted to add, Lynn, your extraordinary depth of knowledge and your unflagging enthusiasm for teaching all of us about river corridors and geomorphology, did I say that right, is extraordinary. And I don't even know how many committees you've been on, the hours you've spent educating anyone who wants to go and taking your own time, taking people down the Carson River constantly, and the Truckee. It's noticed, and it is so appreciated by everyone.
If
You're-
I have to go on the river, I guess.
Well, we know you're safe, so we will go with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's one of the little things that she deserted us a little bit. She went to Reno and she was taking a lead in the Truckee Rivers. All that wonderful work they've done on the Truckee River, one Truckee River, and she's in a leadership position, was.
And you know what?
Hmm.
That place is a nightmare to work. This place is a joy to work. It's tough up there. It is tough up there. It is tough. Down here, everybody has their cards face up. Everybody talks openly. You know what you're doing. There's no hidden landmines, and you can get stuff done. Really, it happens. So I appreciate that. It's just
Well,
like,
it always takes somebody to kick the ball. And you're really good at that. Okay, picture time.
picture time.
Then we'll get the whole board again, and then we're. Don't
Just-
grab my
I'll just
butt.
I'll just get you two first. Okay. And then we'll get the whole board.
Okay.
This guy. This guy.
Okay, everybody stand on your toes. Okay.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
bet.
Thank you.
Okay. There went our audience. We're on 5B, possible action. Discussion of possible action regarding review of the Prison Hill Off-Highway Vehicle Area Monitoring Report and updates on the Prison Hill OHV area. Marina and Greg, we're gonna team. Wow. Oh, Marina.
For the record, Marina Lovejoy, Senior Natural Resource Specialist. So the report that covers the period from June 23 to June 24 for the OHV area is before you. The monitoring program there started in 2020 before I joined the team. And that was initiated to track changes over time at the OHV area and look at the progress being made in terms of restoration work done out there. So this monitoring effort does not replace what the BLM does each year. And as requested in the meeting that happened last year covering the report, we've included the 2023 BLM annual monitoring report in one of the attachments for this item. I want to note that BLM report encompasses multiple parcels that we acquired from them, but the portions specific to Prison Hill are on pages 13 and 14 of that BLM report. So now for the report that the open space team produced, I wanted to call out a few items. A lot of work was completed over the 23 to 24 June year, including 6 signs for the open riding areas. We have 6 signs that have the boundaries of those areas. We built 3 new check dams. We installed jack rail fencing along portions of the eastern boundary. And then we've done lots of routine maintenance. There was a couple events that took place. In May of 24, the OHV area saw the 3rd year of trials put on by the Sacramento Pacific International Trail Society, and about 100 people participated in that. And then about a year ago, the Bronco Super Celebration took place, and that event is primarily held at Mills Park, but a trail ride at the OHV area was included. As usual with the report, we have repeat photos that we take each year, but new this year is photos from summer 2022, which was the first year of summer monitoring out there. And I did that to allow you to compare the vegetation during the growing seasons over the past few years. And then proposed work for next year, we were awarded an RTP grant to fund a vault toilet and additional signage. So I'll take any questions on the report.
All those pages and you give an introduction in 2 minutes. How'd that happen there? Did you have anything you wanted to point out to us in the report that you find? I mean, I'm sure you found some things that are nice for us to understand and know that.
Sure. I think that in terms of vegetation that's coming in, we're really pleased with how that's looking, right? We closed down a lot of trails and roads out there, and the vegetation is coming back in naturally in just a couple of years, so it's really encouraging to see that. I think that's the biggest takeaway for me.
Well, that's important. So cool. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions, comments about the plan?
You have 3 cameras out there. Is that true? You have 3 cameras out there in case for vandalism?
I'll answer that question. So, yeah, for the record, Greg Berger and Trails Coordinator. So, as you know, right now we have a portable toilet out there, and we were having issues with people, I guess, putting a rope around the toilet and dragging it around the staging area and leaving it on its side and things like that. And so we put up 3 cameras so that they're a little bit harder to hide from. And since we've done that, we haven't had any of those issues. So it solved the problem rather easily. But we, as Marina mentioned, we do plan on replacing that with a permanent vault toilet in the next year.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah.
Any other questions, comments?
No, that was my question, the timeline.
I mean, that's a really good report. So nobody can say we're not monitoring. That's for doggone sure. And it is it's moving the needle that way, which is what we need to show and for good management. So that's nothing but accolades for the staff at Open Space to move that needle and to show that. One of the things I was going to ask you, because it's at the beginning of this thing, is the Bronco Club was again here this year, and they were bad boys last year. Did they go out and play this year too? They were just here this week, I thought.
Yeah, just a weekend before last. Yeah, they did. And so we met with them on site ahead of the event. We went to the areas where they had some issues going off a trail last year. We discussed that. They were provided with the maps, and the downloaded them onto their mobile devices. And we had, we went over everything very carefully. And so yeah, we avoided those same issues this year.
That's just great. I mean, that's how you manage and run a facility. And probably left with good terms with the Bronco Club. I would bet you got no negative feedback, probably. They're just probably happy to have a place they can go play, probably.
Yeah, we haven't heard a word back from them. So I think they had a good time.
So when you're out there with these groups, are they giving you feedback at what level of fun that course is out there? That all the design that was done by that group, I can't remember what you called them, that helped you design those OHV trails. Are you getting feedback about positive feedback?
We actually didn't get any feedback, but the fact that they came back for the second year makes me, or the third
No,
year?
I meant
It's
any
the second year.
group too, any group
Oh,
besides.
any,
yours.
oh,
Yeah.
any groups.
Yeah.
Well, the group that helped us with those was the Friends of Prison Hill, which is a rock crawler group. And so, you know, with their help, there were some compromises made. We actually closed some areas but kept other areas open. But we've, you know, we work with them periodically on, we're going to be working with them shortly on some signage for those, for the rock crawler routes and things like that. But as far as feedback, specific feedback to the rock crawler routes from other groups, I haven't had any.
Go ahead.
For these special events, are we getting fees for these special events? I mean, are we getting some income?
Yeah, Lindsay Boyer for the record. That's a great question. And yes, so we have rental fees associated with all of our facilities and we charge, I couldn't tell you what it is off the top of my head, but we do charge a fee for use of the facilities. And that goes right back into open space, not into the general fund. So it helps support maintenance or anything else we may need.
Any other comments, discussion? Go ahead, Susan.
Just a quick comment is that the pictures are just really good because it does show that history and the growth in the area and how it is being taken care of, and especially the ones where there was impact in non-allowed areas and how those have been fenced off and have come back. So I'm glad we take pictures. Thank you.
Is it going to go to the Board of Supervisors, this report? You don't know?
We weren't planning on that, but I'll let Lindsay.
Lindsay Boyer for the record. No, this one isn't one that typically
Stays in
goes to
house.
the board. Yeah, just for your information.
Events that you, any work that you'd like us to do?
Is that specifically related to the OHV area or just in general?
Area?
When I will make sure that we get an invite out to OSAC when we do have an event, like when Friends of Prison Hill does a cleanup or something, which is an annual thing. So, and we do from time to time have events out there. So we'll be sure to make sure that we get an invite out to you guys as well.
Wait a sec, not yet, Denny. I'll call you up here in a second here for public comment. I'm not there yet. Almost there. I'm almost there. Let's see if there's any more questions from the staff. Seeing none, then okay, public comment, Denny.
Denny French, Carson City. Sorry. I'll give it a, as far as the Bronco activities, not this time around, but the first time around, there was feedback. People noticed that there were areas that they went off trail. There was concern that the preparation didn't really have the participants, well, were not really up on where the actual trails were, and they could have done a little bit more there. Plus, there was no one there to clean up after one vehicle goes one way and breaks things down, others tend to follow because they think that's a trail. And so those things, I think, in this case, they may have cleared up. My questions would be is, did they get their full deposit back? Because I know there was work put back into the hill after the event. And then another thing that was a bit disconcerting to me was that the deposits are very low. I would like to see that they pay for whatever efforts have to be used to clear up the place, to clean up the place. And the Friends of the Hill, while they don't get paid for their efforts, any city activity up there by rangers or such after the fact should be covered. And so I'd like that to be considered. But I heard that from the first event, a lot of people very enthusiastic about being here this time. I wasn't able to participate myself as far as even viewing. Of course, I don't have a Bronco, but I wanted to be on the hill to see how things go, to see the enjoyment of the individuals utilizing this opportunity. So I'm all for that. I think that city's oversight was lacking the time before, and I'm hoping that this time there were not as many oopses as far as where things went. And I would actually like to hear more about what they had done to prepare after the first round. But I'm hoping that they did get some word from the outside, which I think was contributed, what's not necessarily mentioned. There were fupas and oohs and ahs, and I think deposits should be really considered to be high enough to cover whatever expenses put on city staff and others to clean up if it's necessary. But otherwise, those events are great. Prison Hill itself, though, the pictures are gorgeous. Anybody that hasn't been up to Prison Hill area at all should. It's a great opportunity for bird watchers, bug watchers and such, but I'm noticing less bugs and less animals. That happens when things are utilized as much as they have been. But I want to encourage everybody that will get up on phase 2, take a good look at what you're going to be left with on phase 3. It's not natural at all. It's not the terrain anymore. You can't even get near the plants because you've got a ravine or areas that you have to step over. So my time is up. Thank you.
Thanks, Denny. Okay, so we're going to bring it back to us, and you'll see that on our sheet, it talks about possible action. They kind of left that open for discussion on our part, if we thought that there was something that we would want to take action on. But I'm going to say we, and the staff weren't specific about what that action would be. Does that make sense? So if there's anything anybody has that would make an action item, oh, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, Ben Johnson, Senior Deputy District Attorney for the record. I just wanted to explain that change. Normally when you hear these reports, they're for discussion only. The reason why I advise changing it, and I believe that the Board of Supervisors does this as well, it's just that if the board wanted to take some kind of action specific, however, if you're fine with the report, there's no requirement that you vote to accept it or anything like that. So you're perfectly fine not taking any action at all. It's just whether it just gives you a little bit more leeway in terms of open meeting, it's just there to give you the freedom.
All right, well, that actually gives me a thought. So go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, Jay Wiggins for the record. So Prison Hill has been a topic to just about every meeting I've been to, and I would just encourage staff to continue to very helpful for some of us that aren't able to get out there all the time and see it. So just wanted to say I appreciate staff doing this. Thanks.
Anybody else? If somebody would entertain a motion, I was thinking maybe I'd like to see this go to the Board of Supervisors. Because there's people that have been talking to the Board of Supervisors that are involved with this property too. They may not read it, they may just put it on a shelf, but motion to move that up to the Board of Supervisors.
I'll move to take the report that we received as part of the open space to the Board of Supervisors for their information.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Staff can send that report to the Board of Supervisors. However, we don't have control over the agenda. So staff can email it. Okay,
I would
wanted
just
to make
trust
sure
the
that
fact that Jen or Lindsay would call them up and say, how can we get this on?
absolutely, it just
Yeah.
doesn't. We won't know if they'll.
I understand that
Okay.
because of all of the discussion that's taken place on, just like Jay said, on Prison Hill. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda. Staff updates, discussion only, Trails Coordinator Report. Activities related to trail projects managed by Carson City Parks, Rec, and Open Space Department.
Trails Coordinator. Just a couple of updates. First on the Prison Hill West project. So construction began in September of this year, and the trailhead completely signed off and opened up to the public, and then he can continue working south with the project. So I kind of like that plan, and hopefully by mid-November we'll have Coons Lane Trailhead open back up. Trailhead, which is really in pretty poor condition. Everything is ready to go except for that we're waiting on final SHPO clearance for the cultural resource report. And I guess their staffing is they're pretty understaffed right now, so we're still waiting on involving the public, especially the neighbors adjacent to the property, and then of course the Korean War veterans in that planning process. Morgan Mill Interpretive Plaza from 2 to 4 p.m. will be the unveiling, and basically we've been working with Public Works and with the Carson Water Subconservancy District to prepare a high water marker, which marks some of the historic floods, and it also has the base flood elevation. And we've got 2 interpretive signs out there, the high water marker and the signs. We moved the monument sign and the dedication sign to the little plaza, put rocks in there, so it looks a lot nicer than it used to look at Morgan Mill. It's really been dressed up quite a bit, and we're pretty excited to be able to unveil that. Still working on a flyer.
I'll wait.
It's a group effort
I'll be right next to the post
with
box.
lots of agencies. So okay, all right. Next up, Desert Peach Trail. So that was another Recreational Trails Program grant. We completed that trail in June. We had over 50 people that attended the grand opening. We had if you haven't been on it, I suggest that you try it out. You might really like it. It's a good one. Bob's Trail. So we had an Eagle Scout project this past spring that kind of started working on the last segment of that trail, and then Muscle Powered finished it up. Bob's Trail now completes a 2.6-mile continuous trail from the Foothill Trailhead up to the beginning of the Ash to Kings Trail. And the critical piece of this is that we have had a braided system of trails to get from the bottom of the hill up to Ash to King. And so now we have a sustainable, continuous trail from the bottom to the top. And kudos to Muscle Powered for working on those various pieces for several years, and it's now done. Also, these last few months, we put one at the entrance to the Eagle View open space along Bob's Trail, and then we also placed one at the Lakeview Trailhead. And speaking of Lakeview Trailhead, you may have seen some of the press releases, but it's going to be closed mostly for the next year. The state of Nevada and hauling materials and pipes and things up there. And we updated our website with the details, and there's also, we included in our update the map of various trails that will be closed up in that area. Does not include the Tahoe Rim Trail or the Cap of Tahoe or Ash to Kings, but there are some trails a little bit further north that will be closed for a period of time while they're doing that work. That could be
That will be
part of that.
really popular.
Mm-hmm. And then lastly, one thing I didn't include in your update, but I wanted to add, last Thursday, the Board of Supervisors approved us to submit an application to Recreational Trails Program for a grant to make some improvements at the Ambrose Carson River Natural Area. So our proposal is to improve the trailhead and resurrect the concept of a once outdoor classroom. Back in 2012, there was an educational kiosk and an interpretive trail that was built by a Carson High School biology class, and there was a teacher that used that area for but those components were all wiped out by flooding over the years. And so our proposal is to build a new outdoor classroom that'll all be well above the floodplain, and it will include replacing the existing portable toilet with a permanent vault toilet, installing an 18 by 18 shade structure within the amenities, constructing an approximately 150-foot accessible pathway with 3 interpretive signs along it, and then installing a kiosk next to the stage structure that would provide inner or changeable content for educational purposes. So we submitted that on Friday, and we will keep you updated on if we get a grant or not. So, and that's all I have. And with that, I will take any questions that the committee may have.
Any questions? Go ahead, Donna.
Is the new online map updated with the Bob's Trail and all of those?
Yes, it is.
Cool.
Uh-huh.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
to see if we can do any kind of interpretive signage or, I don't know, put more grant opportunities or something?
I am not familiar with an Ambrose house.
Neither am I, actually. Where's it at?
I will send you some more information about it. I don't have it on me, but there was a documentary film that's like in the works about it.
Oh,
that
wow.
I learned about through the Historic Society. It's the family's name.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the house being within our Ambrose, Carson River Natural Area. Actually, I'm not familiar with an Ambrose house, even outside of that. So yeah, let us know what you find out.
Any other, go ahead, Sam.
I remember Mark a few meetings ago, he mentioned when the Eagle Scouts initially present their projects for them to come back and kind of explain like how the project went. Is there any opportunity for this last one to come back and just talk to us, about the project a little bit?
Yeah, so the last one was the that segment of Bob's Trail, and I will reach out to that Eagle Scout and see if he would be willing to come back and talk about that. I can note to myself.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Mary.
No, it's just a comment. I think, Greg, you should tell him to put a GoPro on his helmet and ride it so we can watch the video.
Well, they
Then we
have
can really
drones
see it.
now. Yeah, they got drones now that'll follow you.
Yeah, if he has one, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I know somebody has one of those.
I just wanted, the Ambrose thing is really exciting, and everyone can see how many people have been moving in here. And so what we're doing now, laying the foundation with all these open spaces, is so important. Because 50 years down the road, when most of us won't be here, you probably will. We
50
need,
years.
this is really important what we're doing. So I just really give you kudos to doing all of these amazing opportunities, and please continue to do so. It's really matters. So we're not just doing it for all of us right now. So thank you. Sorry, I shouldn't have done that.
No,
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to say, I was one of the few people that was going out to Ambrose for years, and it was like a dumping ground. I was one of the few people that even knew it was there for a long time. I'm so glad to see it improved. And I used to go out to watch the geese, because a lot of the geese nested out in that area in the oxbow. So it's really, I'm glad that it's being taken care of finally. So.
Yeah, no, thank you for the comment. And along those same lines, one thing I mentioned is that where we've made these improvements along the river, we've seen improved behavior and better protection of the resources. And East Silver Saddle Ranch is one of those examples. We used to have uncontrolled motorized access to the river down there, and they can drive down to the parking area, but they're not damaging resources. And for this particular project on Ambrose, one of the people that gave us a letter of support was Sheriff Kenny Furlong, because I think he sees the value in that kind of thing.
That you let us know. I picked up the paper that morning and then threw it on my couch and was working on my data. I'm working on some data on the river, but I missed the meeting was that day and it was on the agenda, but I didn't know if it was on the consent agenda. But it's always nice to know if they're coming in front. So if we want as citizens, which we would probably be some proactive type citizens being on this board, we can't speak for the board, but we can go talk and support you guys when you put those in front of the board, because you never know what might come up in discussion that you could help clarify. Just a note for you guys.
Yeah, no, appreciate that.
And I want to let everybody know that these projects, the initiative, there's nothing there that tells them in their office that you will go after these grants and you will do all this work, because it's a lot of work. They do this on their own initiative. And you need to be given credit for that, actually, so that everybody understands that they think it's just maybe part of your normal performance. You guys are always putting yourself a load of work ahead of yourself, keeping yourself busy. And I'm going to talk about here in a few minutes. You wouldn't believe all the positive feedback on the trails. I mean, it's like I have all these 1,000 comments, and there's probably at least 100 comments on trails. People love those trails, all of them. And maintenance is taken care of, and it's just unbelievable, all the feedback. You'll see it when we get done with all the reporting with the data, so it's phenomenal. So it just gives you some feedback of what a great job you guys do, and for this city. Thank you. Anybody else have anything? It's a discussion only. Natural resource specialist. Do you have that on your business card, Marina?
I do.
Oh, good. The Open Space
And my
Managers Report.
nameplate.
Activities relate to projects managed by Open Space Division, including updates within the Carson River Corridor. Marina Lovejoy and Lindsay both, actually.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Lindsay Boyer, Open Space Manager. I will start us off as this is a joint report between Marina and I. So starting right off the top, getting into some Carson River updates. Wanted to update you all about the Mexican Dam Portage Project. So this is a project for a number of years now with the goal of creating a takeout just above the dam to extend the aquatic trail and allow for safe portage around the dam. So we have since worked with CWSD to finalize the design plan. So those are at 100%. And now we're kind of in the permitting phase. So all the required permitting, which is extensive for this project since it takes place in the river, all of that has been initiated, but may take a number of months to come to fruition. So based on that, because construction of this project will need to be done when the river is at its lowest, probably won't take place until project. And then related to the Carson River Master Plan, as Chair Kimbrough was discussing, so we've made a lot of strides on the Carson River Master Plan recently. So this is a project to update the Carson River Master Plan, which was completed in 1996. So a few activities that we've done most recently, one was that we put out the Carson River User Experience Survey. So this was a public survey that went out for about 6 weeks, and we wanted to gather as much feedback from the public as we could about how they use the river and where and what they like about it, what they'd like to see. We received about 300 responses, so that was so we're currently analyzing that data, and Mark is helping us with that. And so we plan to bring kind of a summary of the data and what we learned and responses from that effort to the joint meeting in December. So you guys will get to see what the public had to say. Another activity we did recently, we held the Carson River Master Plan Partner Collaboration Kickoff. So this was basically a tour with our various, invited them to come to a tour. So we led a guided hike along the river, and on that hike, we talked about all kinds of things, different natural resource concerns that affect the river, planning considerations, things that have been accomplished since the last plan was completed, just kind of a smattering of topics that we'll really get into and dive deeper once we get into some of the next steps with the project. So we had about 20 or so folks attend, about maybe not quite 20 different agencies, but we had quite a diverse group there. So we're very thankful for all those folks who came out and participated. Then we're into all of those topics. And in the future, we will be having a public open house as well. So we're going to be keeping the committee apprised of kind of moving forward on that project. But that's kind of where we are at now. And we're very excited about all the feedback and engagement that we're getting on that project. So it's been very exciting. Moving outside the river corridor, just one other update that I'll provide, and then I'll turn it over to Marina. Project that I've been working on. Where we're at now is we have since received an appraisal. So we put out an appraisal, not for the water rights we're purchasing through SNPLMA. That's on a parallel pathway that is a little bit slower because we have to do some due diligence and things like that. But for the other chunk of water that we're hoping to purchase, we did work to get an appraisal for about 915 acre feet of water, which is about a third, a little bit more than a third than we would need for the ranch. That came in at about 2.3 million, so not too bad in the grand scheme of things. So right now we're kind of working to check the bank and do some internal planning, figure out how we want to approach purchasing those water rights. And so when we have a plan that we're ready to bring forward, that will come to OSAC as well as the Board of Soups. Related to the SNPLMA grant, we also are working on a water study and a water report. That's the due diligence that I mentioned. So we have folks under contract to help us complete both of those efforts. And once that's completed, then we can initiate an appraisal on those water rights. So we're closer than ever before on acquiring water for Buzzies. And so we're very excited about all the strides that we've made there. And with that, I will turn it over to Marina, and then we'll take questions at the end.
For the record, Marina Lovejoy, Senior Natural Resource Specialist. I'll tell you guys about the sheep project that happened this year for the 18th year, which is just incredible. We again worked with Borderland and Sheep Company. The project went great. There was no issues. New this year, we developed carson.org/sheep to provide folks with updates on the project and pictures. And I tried to update the location of the sheep because I know folks around town like to go out and see them and take pictures. So look for that next year as well. We couldn't have done the project without the help of the fire department in town. They provide water for the sheep on nearly a daily basis. Sheep drink a lot of water, yeah. So we intend to seek grant funding that will help pay for CC Fire's efforts, as well as additional fencing and more signage to put at trailheads that alert trail users that sheep might be in the area. So that's the sheep project. I wanted to touch on the Buzzies Ranch Bank Stabilization Project that I brought to the February meeting. I wanted to acknowledge and thank all the folks from the public that came out and gave comment at that OSAC meeting. And we're working to incorporate their feedback into future repair approaches. And one way that we intend to accomplish this is through the Carson River Master Plan Amendment that Lindsay mentioned. Currently, we're actively having discussions with all the stakeholders involved, as Lindsay mentioned, and we're really hoping to come to a consensus of approved restoration techniques to use on our stretch of the river here in Carson City. Next, I want to talk about Carson Valley monkey flower. We're still waiting on the Fish and Wildlife Service to make their initial determination on next steps, so no updates as of yet. And then lastly, I want to talk about past and upcoming events. On October 12th, we had our first ever volunteer appreciation event for our department, and we were able to recognize a number of groups and individuals who've played just a tremendous role for our parks and open spaces. And I want to give a shout out to Erin Larson, who's our volunteer coordinator. She did a fantastic job planning that event. Lots of people showed up, and it was really heartwarming to see how many people were surprised to be recognized. But it was just lovely. And then lastly, I wanted to mention, back in June, we launched our first ever Trails Challenge, where we were encouraging folks to complete just 5 of our trails and then submit their trail log to us to be entered into a raffle prize. So that Trails Challenge ends on December 1st, and then we'll be doing the raffle on December 14th at the Holiday Hike with our park rangers at Riverview Park. And if you haven't entered our Trails Challenge, you really should, because the raffle prizes are awesome. We have gift cards from local restaurants and stores, some golf passes, multiple Patagonia bags and hats, and then Aces baseball tickets as well. So sign up for that. And Lindsay and I will take questions.
Did Erin get those prizes?
Erin was able to secure all those prizes.
You keep her on.
I hope so, yeah.
That's phenomenal. That's a lot of prizes for that. That's really good. Yeah, I want to get her involved with some of the other groups I'm in. Any comments, questions?
I have a comment. I feel, and this may be I'm new, but I feel like there's kind of a disconnect of what our role is. And I'm not saying this to criticize staff in any way, but I just feel like there's a missed opportunity. I feel like we're getting reported on events that have happened in the past, but I haven't, and maybe I'm missing it, but I don't feel like I've been apprised of events that are going to happen in the future. So I did get an email about the volunteer appreciation thing, but I haven't heard anything about this committee since last June. So I'm just curious, like, is that part of the process? Like, it seems like we would be involved in some kind of a subcommittee or something, but I guess I'm looking to you as the question as well. So unless we individually put ourselves, out there, is that how this works? We don't really have any input into events and things like that while they're being planned?
It's kind of out of the agenda a little bit for the subject area on, but what you're talking about is something that I think this group would have to sit down and discuss.
Oh, okay. Well,
And,
sorry.
I mean,
As far as the agenda is concerned, specifically, I think it would have been cool if we had been invited to the multiple agency walk to kick off the Carson River Plan. For example, that's just
that I don't
my
know. I would,
input.
that I
That's
didn't
my
know.
comment.
So that's a good point to be made, and that's the kind of the same thing about being involved with Board of Supervisors.
Mr. Chair, may I answer the question?
Sure, go ahead. Hang on a second.
So for that tour, and really with any tour, as you know, we have to manage quorums with the committee. And so Chair Kimbrough was invited as the chair. He's also been involved heavily in the project. And then Donna was invited from the perspective of Muscle Powered, but and the many other hats that she wears. But we were trying to limit having a quorum at that event, and so that is the reason why only certain individuals were invited. But I'm making a note of making sure that we do a better job of inviting you guys to all of the things that we do. A lot of these events, I try to project out forward. So like this event list that we've got at the end of the report here goes through the end of the year. So every meeting I try to include a lot of the events that are upcoming, but so many moving parts, some people may get missed. So I apologize for that, and we'll definitely make sure that you guys are invited to all the things that we do, because we'd love to have you there. So.
Yeah, and I know that what you actually presented it to me when we first met, when you first came in the committee. I remember that. But I know that the Board of Supervisors go to ribbon cuttings, and there's all of them are sitting there. That so I know there's exceptions to having them all in the. So maybe we need an understanding of the laws about quorum. So we can put that on a future agenda item, and then we can actually put it on the future agenda item about staff's future work coming as much as the past work. I understand what you're saying, which makes some sense. So just lengthens your report about what's happening next year. We've always done what happened last year. It's a whole new jump for us here to do that, which I understand that. So we can have that discussion in a future agenda item. How's that? Would that make sense? Yeah. So that's 2 agenda items. Understand what a quorum is, and then future events. Okay, cool. So any other discussion from the board on the report? See action. So the next thing is member announcements and requests for information. I'll start down with Jay. None? Nothing? Nothing? Donna?
Well, wait,
Oh, see, I knew that couldn't happen.
you're going to miss me next year. Just the ESTC Summit.
I was going to mention that, but that's good. Go ahead.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with the Eastern Sierra Trails Coalition Summit, will be November 15th. And if you haven't signed up or you can come, please do so, because it's a great opportunity to see what's going on in all of northwestern Nevada as far as trails go, from Washoe, well, actually,
From Markleyville to Portola.
Patola, yeah. Eastern
trails
Sierra Trails Coalition is all of the nonprofits that build trails and all of the organizations that affect building trails from Alpine County all the way up through Washoe County and into
Whatever county that is.
whatever county.
Sierra
it is.
Buttes, actually.
Sierra Buttes.
And then we
Uh,
actually go clean over to Truckee from the TPT.
Plymouth
Mullen.
and, yeah. So we get together once a year for an all-day conference to discuss building trails and how to, and this is community planning. What's the theme? Community planning?
Planning with trails, something
I
close to
don't know.
that.
But building communities through planning.
There you go.
November
15th.
15th.
It's a
It's all
Friday.
day thing, and if you can ask either of us for the link to sign up for it. It's $25 for the day. It includes lunch and snacks and
And
everything.
it's up at Western Nevada College.
Yeah, it's at WNC.
And we usually get 100 to 125 people, usually.
And there'll be panel discussions.
And Greg's heavily involved with the process,
Yeah.
being the trails guy.
So it's a great event, and this is we do different things. This is our low year when it's just the Eastern Sierra Trails Coalition. The other year, we do it in conjunction with NDOT, and it's a much bigger event, so, yeah.
All right, well, thank you. I won't do that. Any other comments, future plans? Nothing? Okay, so you took my announcement away. It's okay. Don't be sorry. It's the same announcement. Okay, so next on the agenda is future agenda items. So let's start with Sam this time. Any future agenda items you have on your list?
No, but I do, want to second and just say thank you to Aaron. I agree. I think if we can be a little more proactive with inviting us as committee members to events, that would be great. Or even throwing out an idea of some, system of, hey, we know 5 OSAC members are attending a meeting, so that's all that's allowed without creating a quorum. Something like that would be really appreciated.
I'm sure Aaron will be excited by adding on to the list for volunteers.
Greg, you touched a little bit on it. We've seen some fabulous presentations from Eagle Scouts for their projects over the last year. And so just if there's any possibility to have them come back and say what happened and what they did and that kind of thing, it's always fun, and to give them kudos for doing the work that they did. Thank you.
Are we done with that part? So future agenda items, one of them will be the quorum, and then one will be future events or programs. And then I'm requesting, actually I talked to Lindsay a little bit about that, was from the meeting that happened with the Planning Commission and here, I think that we need trail standards to be bumped up to a higher level, meaning a regulation of some form of government definition that are out there already, so that people don't call trails roads. You don't build roads. And somehow there's confusion about roads and trails if they get to be 12 foot wide. So, and there's standards that are out there that define those, so that I would like us see to deal with that. And then part of that would be to even work with the Planning Commission so that they understand what a trail is, because they don't. And they know, everybody knows what a dirt trail is, but they don't know that there's a 3-foot standard and slope and cross slope and erosion control sections. And then there's trails that are class 4 that can be 18 foot wide for multiple users, and the surfaces, all this tons of stuff. And I know that the trail plan has a little bit of that in there, but I think if we firm that up and then take the opportunity, if we're given that, to work with like the Planning Commission to bring that knowledge to them, that there is a standard and that this is why we call it a class 4, not a road. So that and they actually had confusion on the Planning Commission about that. They saw it as a road too, which doesn't help us at all when the Planning Commission's thinking that we're building roads out there. So I'd like to see that on the agenda, but it gives you a homework assignment that I will help you with. And that's up to Lindsay though, so I can't assign that to you. I could request that, unless there's some other feedback about that request from this group saying how you feel about that.
I think it's a good idea, because I think I read something in the paper that somebody was confused that it was a road, about the current
I said I think that's a good idea because I believe I read something in the paper about someone confusing it as a road as opposed to a trail that's being built right now.
Pathway. Go ahead,
I
Susan.
agree, I support that. Anytime that you can provide more clarification and just specifics, then it's better understanding.
Thank you. So doesn't necessarily mean the next meeting, but we can work on that in the future about when it might work. I think you said you wanted a joint meeting when we talked the first time instead of just us. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Lindsay Boyer for the record. So in your packet, you've got future agenda items. One of the items identified for the joint meeting is a trail overview with Greg. So I think that is kind of what we envisioned was Greg would describe all of the types of trails and the ins and outs, and then that may be a presentation we give to the Planning Commission, or we can work with that staff to figure out what's the best way to disseminate that information. And then not related to trail types specifically, but we have been working with planning related to Title 18 and recognizing open space and trails and trailheads as just permitted uses within open space. So that'll clean up some of the issues we had at the Planning Commission as well.
Yeah, because also Public Works oversees multi-use paths, which are a type of trail. And so we need to work together with them regarding them because we connect to them, to the multi-use paths. It's all part of the Unified Pathways Master Plan. So that we need to get an understanding with them also in regards to that. Because like the Historic Virginian Truckee Trail is not really a trail, we call it a trail, but it's a multi-use path for the most part, so.
It's no more different than the American Discovery Trail.
Hmm?
It's like the American Discovery Trail.
Well, the American Discovery Trail, though, that's usually a single track.
Well, it's paved roads, it's all kinds of things. So.
Yes, a little bit, well, it's whatever they can find, but
Right.
they're trying
Whatever
to
they
create
go.
it as a single track, but yeah, yeah.
Then I had to request for maybe one more thing on as it fits on. I'd be curious what the fees are, and I don't remember ever seeing those. What the fees are charged and where the money goes, or a deposit and all that stuff.
In the past, we brought a review of the fee schedule to the joint meeting, but a lot of it is focused on the park side of things, so the open space stuff might have just gotten lost. So we can bring that as an item, either at the joint meeting or at another OSAC meeting.
That's that future thing again too, and being more involved with the. Okay, cool. I'm done with any more agenda items.
District Attorney for the record. Since the question came up, I'd just like to answer, since I can, regarding quorum. So it's not a violation of the open meeting law if you're all at an event together, whether it be, a public event or a private party or anything like that, provided that you're not all huddled together talking about, like even if it's like an open space sponsored public event, you're all there. It's just there shouldn't be any discussion amongst yourselves. So you just kind of want to be careful, even optically, that you're not all grouped together. Even if you're just talking about something else, it gives the impression that you may be talking about something business related. So that's really the caveat, that there's no prohibition that you cannot be all in the same room together unless it's in a meeting. It's just when you start discussing, even discussion about, something that may come before the board, like if you were going to a trails seminar, but for anything else that, any of the other events that they mentioned, it's fine for you all to attend. It's just, you got to be careful that you're not starting to discuss things, or, anything like that. Or even you also have to watch out for a walking quorum. So even if you're only talking to one other person about something and that person then goes to another member, just keep business out of it, talk about the event or talk about the weather.
Well, that's actually very enlightening. So one of the things about the river tour was it was to inform people for discussion too. So that was a little different than a social occasion where you have a ribbon cutting. There's actually presentations and discussion about the subject. So It wouldn't have been the best case scenario to do that in, but we would understand that now and be reminded of that before we have meetings where we can invite everybody
That same thing to Buzzy's Ranch in 2 different groups. And this was just for those people, the stakeholders who hadn't been there. We had already done it as the group. So you had already been on it.
a part of it. Oh, you didn't?
I requested to go to Buzzy's Ranch.
No, she's talking about the flood one.
The
Riverbank.
Yeah, the
Oh,
riverbank,
yeah.
yeah. This was just for the people outside of the committee who had not gotten to do it, that were stakeholders. So it was the same thing you'd already done. So you'd already done it. And so, yeah, it was not something that committee hadn't done.
Ben Johnson, again, for the record. If anyone ever has any questions, I'm going to answer this or any other open meeting law questions that you may have. That's what I'm here for.
Thank you. Okay, I'm ready, I think. No, I am. We are ready for public comment for close to the end of the meeting. So public comment. Whoa. The hell. Sorry.
My bicycle, but I got kind of sucked into to the Odyssey Trail and the Desert Beach Trail and the Riverview Trail, and I just kept going, and the river is absolutely beautiful, and I appreciate everything that Open Space is doing for the trails. I was comment on a few things. I was pleased to hear Member McQuarrie ask about going to some of the events. I think it would be really helpful for the advisory committee in order to advise regarding the OHV annual report. I obviously missed it, but we have next year, so I can speak next year, and I look forward to that. And I would like to ask staff to consider, and I've asked them before, 4 features to consider annual review that I think are sensitive resources. One of them is the waterfall. One of them is double waterfall crawler route. One of them is off the trailer crawler route. And one of them is lower headlight open area. I think they're extremely sensitive resources. They're hydrological resources, and they're intact soil and vegetation resources that are being progressively destroyed. And I think it would be good to have annual evaluation of those. They were not on the BLM report. The BLM report is like the staging area. Well, it's mostly Silver Saddle Ranch and non-OHV. Very little in the OHV, and they're mostly the standard. The big area is a staging area that everyone can go to, the Summit Road, the Toad Road. They're not going into the hydrological, very sensitive natural resource areas. Even their hydrology person has not looked at the ephemeral streams. And I still say those are sensitive resources, and I'm not sure that we're really closely looking at them, and I'd like to see that. I would also greatly appreciate very close monitoring of the events, the trials event last year and this year. There was destruction of intact resources. I documented it with videos, with photos. I sent it to Open Space. And I really didn't hear back on that, but that I agree with Denny. I'm wondering if the security deposit should be used for some of the repair of that rather than my taxes or the Q18 money. I think that the organizers need to be responsible, and the master plan does say for events that the staff must or shall, it's a mandate, look at the area after the event, monitor the impacts. They may charge the security deposit, they may use it, that's not a mandate, but as a taxpayer, I feel like there has to be accountability by our staff and by the people that are enjoying our properties. I have documentation of that, and I will continue to document the 4 features that I just mentioned. I don't know if any of you saw it on your tour, but I think as the advisory, it would be good for you all to see it from the public standpoint, not just from Open Space. You're advising Open Space. They shouldn't be advising you. But if you went for a site visit with them, some of the public feels like you're getting advised, and you're even speaking the same language when you explain to us why these things are okay, why it's okay to be riding in ephemeral stream washes that are narrower than the rock crawlers. I mean, that's against even your know before you go rules. So I'm sure our Mr. Johnson can say how we can do that under open meeting law. But I would encourage you to go out, to ride your bike, to walk, to go into, and sorry I was late, and I'll see you next year for the same agenda. And I'll
Denny French, Carson City Committee, means that you have to go out there. Your staff is the city worker. It's Lindsay Boyer. That's not something that's their purview. But you all have to is looked into. But I encourage you to look into it. Don't just repeat what you've heard. We've been through that with to tell them it was okay. They found out they left artificial turf still on the table. I'd like to also suggest lanes, 3 lanes, but a path, road or not. And I have a problem with that because what I see being constructed by engineers take away all of the natural anymore, and it can't even be compared to what I'm really ashamed of us that we've ever come up on us. And so that's my thing. But I also think its purpose means it's not a road. It's a multi-person available. And I would like you all to consider picking out spots that might fit in for habitats that we're looking up, and some of them are special, and they might be able to take on to consider the idea of, so, you know, you're all doing wonderful stuff or be lost unless we take dibs on what's going to be available in the future and we take care of the wildlife and the insect life. Have you looked around? I don't even have to close my screen anymore. Sorry.
Got a second, how about a first? Okay.